Hey there, streamers, live streamers, videographers, friends. I wanted to bring some of the best Black Friday deals to you because I've been looking through and sifting through all of B&H's deals, all of Amazon's deals, and I found just a few select ones, about 12 from each website, that I felt were better deals for live streamers to check out. So I made this video for you. We're going to go over all of the products that I found, and of course, links are down below in the description if you want to check them out. So the first deal that I have on Amazon is for the ATEM 156 monitor. And this is from CTech. So I do have this monitor. I use it quite frequently. This monitor, the beauty of it was back when I had just the ATEM Mini Pro, this monitor has 4 HDMI inputs and 4 HDMI loop outs. And what that means is that we can take all 4 of our video feeds and we can loop them into this monitor, and then we can loop them out and into the ATEM. This meant that we could save the HDMI output on the ATEM so that we could still use that for sending a feed into a recorder or a different screen. And that allows us to both have a multi-view and a recorder with just the ATEM. Since I've had this monitor for so long, I thought it's only right that I share that it's 21% off right now. This is on Amazon. So initially in the range of $470, it's now down to $378. This is a monitor that I've had for quite a long time. It stays in my case, and this is a full HD monitor. No SDI inputs, so if you do have an SDI ATEM, you would either have to convert that signal from HDMI to SDI before it goes into this monitor, but still all around a great monitor, and I've been a big fan of CTech's products. So that is the first one, and right along that same thought, the next one that I want to bring up is also from CTech. And this monitor is the 17-inch rack mountable pull-out monitor. And this monitor, you've probably seen me use a similar one in my rack mount build. Now, it was a heavy rack mount build. This monitor is not light, and I'll be completely honest on that front. They do make both an HDMI model or a model that has HDMI and SDI. I highly recommend paying a little bit extra for that. As you can see here, it's on sale from $799 at 21% off, coming in at $631. What I like the most about this is that it folds back and slides into a rack mount position so that you can mount this into your rack cases and take this on the go with you. It only takes up one rack unit, so it really doesn't take up a lot of space, and that is why I like it the most. Just again, I'll repeat that warning that it does come in a little bit heavier. Let's see if they have the weight listed on here. The product weight should be here. And let's see if we can find this for you all, just in case people are wondering. Okay, item details. Doesn't say the exact weight, but I will be the first to tell you that if you build a rack mount system like this, definitely have a strong back, or be ready to lift this rack mount case along with a friend, because it's you're gonna feel it. You'll notice. So a great monitor all around, though. Highly recommend it, especially the SDI and the HDMI model. So consider that one if you are looking to rack mount and tuck a monitor away into one rack unit. All right, deal number 3. We're going to move on away from monitors and into wireless for a second. And deal number 3 is the Hollyland Solidcom headsets. So you've actually seen, I've done some videos on the headsets, the Solidcom C1 headsets. And this is for a 4-pack right now. It's 20% off. These usually come in at around $1,000, and they are on sale for $799 for Black Friday as a deal. These are wireless headsets, so there's 4 headsets. This particular one is a single ear, so what's nice about that is it keeps your other ear free to kind of listen out for the program and what's happening. If you need to hear someone who's sitting just right beside you or a client that's sitting behind you, it's nice to have that. I think that the audio quality on these is pretty darn solid, and they are good for 1,100 feet of wireless coverage. Now, keep in mind that is typically line of sight and not going to go through walls, although we have tested this before and sent people out to the parking lot and we have found that we can still keep a signal depending on the building. So the Hollyland Solidcom, great wireless headset to have, whether you're a live streamer or a videographer. I highly recommend having a set of these. I've had so many occasions where someone asks me if I can bring wireless comms, and this is the kit that I bring. Comes in a nice compact package, so you're not dragging a huge case with you. And these also come with an 8-port charger and 8 batteries, so you can swap out batteries in the middle of the day, but you're going to get all day battery life on these things. I think they've got about a 10-hour working time, so you'll get a full day off of it no matter what. Sticking with Hollyland, because I do love their products and I trust them and I've used them before. Another product that I was actually given to test out by Hollyland is the Hollyland Mars 4K wireless transmitter and receiver. So this is both SDI and HDMI transmission. So you can go ahead and pop this thing a few hundred feet away. You can run a signal into it. It supports 3840 by 2160 at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second using the HDMI port. And then, of course, you can support 1080p standard and high definition formats using the SDI ports. So you send one feed in at one end, put the other receiver up to 450 feet away. You can send that signal wirelessly. I highly recommend, though, put that up on a light stand, get it high over people's heads. Don't have any walls in the way. Keep that line of sight. And this has a relatively low latency. They're advertising it at 66 milliseconds latency. They consider that to be ultra low. I will say that if you're using a wireless transmitter such as this one, you really want to consider having that line of sight just for a great signal, but also make sure that you use this on more of a wide shot so that you're not seeing someone's lips move on a close-up. The only way that I would consider using this on a close-up is if all 2 or 3 cameras in your setup are using the same wireless transmitter and receiver so that they are all delayed at around the same latency. Then you can also tweak the audio from there if you're using an ATEM switcher. So nice little set. These can mount to the camera, hot shoe or cold shoe, with a nice little adapter, and I really have enjoyed using all of Hollyland's stuff, and of course that's why I recommend it. Again, if you're just tuning in a little bit later, all of the links for these products are below, and when you use these links, they actually help me to support and keep this channel running at no additional cost to you. Basically, when you use my links, I earn a very small commission as just a way of saying thank you for me referring you to these products. But I want you to realize that while it may seem that I would be financially encouraged to recommend certain products or more expensive products, I want you to realize that these are only products that I'm recommending that I've actually used and tested and played around with before. So I'm not just picking a random product. I'm picking something that I use and that I trust and something that I would recommend to you in your live streaming or video setup. The next product I want to jump over to is on the camera side. So the Canon EOS R5C, this is for the body only, is 12% off right now as a Black Friday deal. Now you might think, oh, that's 12%, that's not a huge sale, but for Canon cameras, this is actually a pretty big sale. This camera usually comes in at $4,299. We're getting it at $3,799, so you're looking at about $500 off. Now, this is a very interesting camera. This was one of their first kind of what I consider to be hybrid. I call them wonky cameras because they're very interesting. They're meant to be all-around cameras. So this one in particular, it has the Digic X processor that shoots 8K video. 8K video is obviously not as crucial for you if you are doing live streaming. Most people are only doing it in HD, very few people in 4K. But if you're kind of a hybrid person like me, working in both the corporate video world and the live streaming world, I would recommend this camera, both for the fact that you're getting 4K and 1080 video that's oversampled from a really nice big sensor. So it's just such a gorgeous image coming out of this, but also to be able to use this in a live streaming setup. It's a 45 megapixel sensor. You can do both photos and video with it. This is obviously a workhorse that is made more for the video side just because it's able to do 8K at 60 frames per second. It has the dual pixel autofocus, so it's very fast, very reliable autofocus. I'm a big fan of the Canon autofocus. And this is kind of a bigger body and form factor because this is kind of this hybrid camera model for Canon. So something to consider here. Again, this is going to be more on the higher end of cameras compared to their other cameras. So I do have the Canon EOS R8 full frame camera, and recently that's come down in price as well. So I got that at around $1,500. I believe now they're coming in closer to $1,299. I've seen them as low as $1,200. Very nice camera all around, but I really like this one. The one warning I'll give you is if you're considering the R5C camera, we did find that when running just off of batteries alone, it did tend to chew through batteries very quickly. I believe they were only really good for about 30 to 40 minutes a piece. So I wouldn't recommend using the regular Canon batteries that come with this. I would definitely consider like a V-mount battery solution or an AC power solution. Now, if we're staying with cameras here, I think it's worth mentioning the camera that I'm using right now because it's on sale. So this is the Sony ZV-E10. They come in both black or white, and I recommend the body only. And I'm going to switch back here to my camera just so you can see. This is my setup here in my little new home office, and we'll do more videos on that later, but this is what the image looks like out of the Sony ZV-E10. It's 4K 30 right now. That's what I'm recording at. Lighting wise, I'm using some aperture lights. So I have the F21X light above me as my kind of key and fill. And then I also have the aperture COB 60X light that's actually behind me. You can't really see it, but if you see my hair light back here, that's where that's coming from. So it's a relatively nice and soft look as far as the lighting goes. It's maybe a little warmer on this side of my face just because I'm trying to lean into my mic here and my setup isn't fully done yet. But I want to show you this is what this footage looks like. And I recommend this camera more for the home live stream setup. So this setup like I'm doing right here, I'm just doing a live recording live to tape from my computer in OBS. But I really like this because it's a good image, it's a good look. And when I pair it with a lens that I'm going to share with you in a little bit here, it is actually a wonderful, wonderful shot if you're looking for a home camera to replace your webcam. And actually, let me bring it back here one more second. So notice the blurred out lights back there. Those are actually only maybe 3-4 feet behind me. So using, this is a 16 millimeter f1.4 lens, you get that nice, beautiful out of focus background. And it comes in either black or white at $598. That's 15% off its original price of $699. And I'll reiterate, I don't recommend going with that kit lens unless that's all you have budgeted for. This kit lens is a 16 to 50 millimeter lens, which is a nice range, but unfortunately, it is what we would not consider to be a fast lens. And so it's going to come up a lot darker in a lighting scenario like this, and you're not really going to get that blurred out look to your image. So I would not recommend the kit lens. I would recommend just the camera only. And then later in this video, I'm going to show you the lens that I would get with it. Again, all of these links down below in the description. It all helps me out immensely. And I'm only recommending these things because, case in point, I'm using these right here to record my video content for you. Now, the next thing that I want to jump into is something that I am going to put like a little asterisk next to. The next item is the Samsung T7 Shield. This is the 4 terabyte drive. This drive is the newer generation Samsung, and notice that it's the Shield, which came out after the T7. I believe they have some higher read and write speeds. Now, For my live streaming friends, I know a ton of you have been wondering what the heck do we do since the Samsung T5 drives were the only really good true drives that were listed as compatible with the ATEM. Personally, I own about 4 of those drives and I just continue to use those. I do also have some SanDisk drives, although lately SanDisk has been getting into trouble because some of their drives were formatting themselves. Now, I've read online that some people find success with just the regular T7 drives. I personally have not wanted to risk that, especially when I'm working for a client and in the professional space. So I have to give my little just notice on this little asterisk that the T7 Shield, while it's not a recommended or approved one on the list from Blackmagic, unfortunately, they haven't updated that list in a very long time. So it's kind of hard for us to know which drives are really going to work, and we just have to trust what people in the online forums are saying. Some people are finding success with the T7 Shields, others are not. My best recommendation is your mileage may vary and use it at your own risk. However, if you are recording to drives that you trust and you know work, it's still great to have a couple of these drives in your bag because then they're really good for backups and just moving footage off onto. So if you're just trying to offload footage, this tends to be my semi-warm storage for footage that I keep with me. So I keep like 6 or 7 of these in my backpack, and I just use these drives for working drives, for editing on projects, but always have a backup somewhere else and always consider recording to one other location at least, other than just the drive plugged into your ATEM. That's my little caveat that I have to give you. Now, the T7 Shield is a great option, but they've also recently come out with the Samsung T9 drives, and these have nearly double the speeds. And so if you're concerned about read and write speeds, this drive, the Samsung T9, coming in at $249, 43% off its original price of $439. Again, another good price, anywhere in the $200 to $250 range for a 4 terabyte solid state drive, especially with speeds like this. These are going to be great drives for storage. These are going to be great drives for just editing off of on the fly when you're on the go. I have not tested this one in particular. I am curious if some people are willing to use this with an ATEM and have experience with it. Leave a comment down below. So my recommendation for this drive is not necessarily as an ATEM drive, but as a just storage and overall usage and editing drive. So just going to make that clear to everyone here before I get myself in a bunch of trouble. So that's the Samsung T9 drive. Now, as we move away from hard drives and we talk a little bit about lighting, the first light that I want to bring up is the Aputure COB60X light. This is 20% off, originally $199. It's down to $159. You typically won't see these prices come down much lower than that on the Aputure lights unless you're buying it used. I love this light, and it's being used right now. So when you see this hair light above me that's lighting my hair, you can kind of see it there, and then you kind of see it on my shoulders and the back of my neck. That is actually from an Aputure COB60X light. It is mounted above me and back against that wall, maybe about 5 feet behind me, on one of those impact vari-poles, those tension rods that go across the ceiling. I'll have to do another video about my setup in this room another time once I get the opportunity to really dress it up and give myself a nice background back there. But this light, the Aputure COB60X, is the light that's being used right now for my hair and to separate me as a backlight from the background. Highly, highly recommend. Love this little guy. It's super cute. It's like a little cube form factor. It's really small. You could potentially even make a kit of 3 of these and get some soft boxes for them if you needed a quick down and dirty on the go 3 light set to take with you for some quick interviews. 60X, so it's surprisingly bright for what it is, but you're definitely going to see people using the 300s and the 600s from Aputure for their main key lights on bigger setups and shoots. But I just want to kind of throw a special mention out there for this light because I think that this light really kind of packs a punch for how small it is. And you can also run it off of batteries. So you can run this off of V-mount batteries, and they do have little adapter plates, I think, for Sony batteries as well. Now, on that same topic as lights, next one I want to go to is the Aputure 300D Mark II. A little bit of an older light, 20% off. Retails for $949, coming in at $759. Where do we use these lights? Well, one, you could definitely use this as a key light if you're on a video shoot, but on the live streaming front, this is a great light if you're trying to use the next item that I'm going to link to, which is the spotlight attachment. So if you've ever been in a dark place and you wanted to be able to just throw up 1 or 2 spotlights on maybe a podium or a small portion of a stage, this is a really good light for that, but you need to get this light in conjunction with the next item, which is the spotlight attachment. There's actually 2 of them that Aputure makes. There's a 26 degree and a 36 degree spotlight. This is a spotlight attachment, so it mounts to the front of that 300D light, and then you can focus it in so you can actually see these little guys here. These allow you to focus the beam of light, and you can essentially crop the light to the portion of the stage so that it doesn't spill off into other areas. And then there's also a focusing section here, so you can loosen up this red knob, and then you can pull or push the light fixture forward or back to adjust the focus of it depending on how harsh of a light you want or how soft of a light beam you want. So highly recommend. This is the 26 degree one, and then they also make a 36 degree one. The degrees are obviously going to get you a bigger or smaller beam of light, but I can say that I've used both of these. Personally, I would rather go with a bigger beam, like 36 degrees, and then cut it down using the built-in features of the light because it does allow you to cut the light down. I would rather have that bigger beam and adjust it later than to have a smaller beam and then to realize that it's not covering enough space. But both of these combined with that Aputure 300D Mark II light are great options for spotlights from the back of a room. If you're in a massive ballroom, like hundreds of people attending the event, you're going to want to look more towards the 600D as far as lights go. But a 300D, we've used a couple of these even in larger live streams, like we've been in churches and done Catholic masses, and from the back of the room we've still been able to hit a podium at the front and center. Really nice lights, really bright, and highly recommend if you have 2 of these spotlight attachments on you. It really makes for an easy time lighting your live streams. Last item on the Amazon list is the V-mount batteries that I mentioned that the COB60X light can run off of. I just got these, and the beauty of these is these are 99 watt hour, meaning they are at the max of what you can bring on an airplane, so you don't get in trouble for bringing batteries on an airplane. So there's a certain limit that the FAA allows, at least within the US, for what you can bring onto an airplane. This is that limit. That's why it's not a 100 watt hour, it's a 99 watt hour. But I love using these for all day battery life on my cameras, and I have since mostly switched over to running most of my cameras strictly off of V-mount batteries for that very reason. The beauty of these batteries is they have a ton of different options. So you've got USB-A and USB-C plugs. That means you could actually power your phone off of this thing. So you can charge your phone while you're charging your battery or charging your camera. It's got an 8-volt out, a 12-volt out, and a D-tap. And typically how I'll use this is I have a D-tap to USB-C power distribution cable. And that's the cable that I will use to get the power into my camera, specifically the Canon R8 camera that I mentioned earlier. But I can't recommend enough at some point switching over to these V-mount batteries. These are currently on sale at 20% off. They're usually $239. They're $191. This is a good price for these, and I will link to that below in the description. So let's hop into B&H and what their products are. And these are a little bit different. So the first product I wanted to bring up is the Pelican carry-on case with the Trek Pack divider system. I'm a huge fan of my Pelican cases, and this being the carry-on case, it has wheels, it does roll, but this is the largest size that you can fit in most overhead carry-on item bins for an airplane. So obviously check with the airline you travel with, but this is a really nice price here, usually $350, discounted down 30% to $244.96. This one has the Trek Pack divider system. So there are some that come with standard pick and pluck foam. There are some that come with other padded dividers. This one being the Trek Pack dividers. What I like the most about that is that they use the least amount of space for these dividers. This is a corrugated plastic system that also is kind of covered in a soft protective foam, but it doesn't take up nearly as much space as the pick and pluck foam. That stuff kind of wastes a lot of free space that could be used in your case. So if you're someone that's stuffing a ton of gear in, the Trek Pack system is definitely the way to go. And this is an all-in-one unit. So it's the Pelican carry-on case and the Trek Pack divider system comes with it. You can see, get a good idea of how much gear you can fit in there. This easily has 2 camera bodies, 5 lenses. In this case, they're including cables, adapters, SD cards, little cases, and pouches. So you can see a ton of stuff fits in here. This is perfect for an ATEM carry-on travel case. I usually will build out one of these when I'm traveling and on the road so I can travel light. This is the same size case that I'm using for my gear. If you're looking for something a little bit cheaper, I can also recommend the Apache cases from Harbor Freight. They have a very similar rolling case that they provide. And let's see here. Their case, there's the 3800, 4800. There's a whole bunch of these. The rolling case, the 5800, that's the one you want if you're looking at Harbor Freight. So $99, and then usually you'll find a coupon gets it down to about $89 or $85. That's an alternative I can recommend. But B&H has the Pelican with the Trek Pack. You're not going to get that Trek Pack divider anywhere else unless you build your own custom. The next item that I have up from B&H, this is headphones, and I think it's as silly as this sounds, I am horrible at losing headphones or breaking headphones, and I feel like you can't have enough of them, so I always recommend keeping 2 or 3 in various cases and keeping them around. Having this nice closed over-ear headphone from Sennheiser, these are really comfy and cushy, so that's why I picked them. They're $20 off right now for the holiday savings. It's usually $100. They're on sale for $79. I know it seems silly. I know it seems something like everyone's got earbuds or headphones, but I can't recommend enough having nice closed over ear headphones if you're trying to monitor audio on a live stream or even just on a video shoot. Next item up is wireless transmission from B&H. This is a little bit different than what we looked at in the past. This is a pricier system for sure, but this is the Teradek Bolt 6 wireless transmission system. It's both 3G SDI and HDMI, so you can transmit 1080 video signals. This is rated up to 750 feet line of sight. We've had good success with the Teradeks, and we've actually found that these are probably some of the lowest latency ones. So if you are concerned about being able to use this and having latency, Teradek is probably the way to go for you. I realize they're definitely in a new price bracket compared to the other wireless transmitters that we talked about, but you got to remember the Hollyland Mars that we mentioned earlier, that one's only looking at about a 400 to 450 foot line of sight, whereas this one is looking at about 750 feet line of sight. So bigger distance for sure. And Teradek is just really known for reliability in the wireless transmission space. Input video up to UHD, so you can do 4K 30 if you're using the HDMI. And then, of course, the SDI being 3G, you're going to have up to 1080p at 60. There's also an SDI loop output. So if you need to loop that out and send it somewhere else, like another monitor, you can loop that out all from the transmitter right here. So you can see it's got, here's a better image from the side here. Let's bring that up for you. So you have a 3G SDI in with the loop out, and then an HDMI input, and then your power connector. Then on the receiver on the other side, you got SDI outputs. It looks like you've got 2 of them, and the HDMI output. So it's your choice when you're using that. If you have an SDI or HDMI switcher, it doesn't matter. Same thing with the camera, SDI or HDMI camera, you can use either or. Again, pricier, but this is one of those investments where once you buy it one time, it's just going to work every time. And you can see from the 7 reviews, averaging 5 stars with only 1 person giving it a bad review. Typically, those are just because they either didn't understand how it worked, and yeah, you can see not compatible with the particular Sony camera, but they were using it with the ATEM switcher. So it looks like it was simply just someone who was either having trouble with this or not using this properly, but every other person has given this a 5-star rating, and that is worth mentioning. Moving away from wireless transmission, the next thing I wanted to jump into is my favorite audio mixer. It's actually the mixer I use for all of my live streams, the Zoom LiveTrack L8 mixer. coming in at $399, a Black Friday savings of $50. I like this mixer because I get 6 XLR inputs. You've also got some 1/4-inch inputs if needed. There's a 3.5mm input as well, so you can plug in a phone. You've got a left and right XLR output, and then you get these 4 1/4-inch outputs that are nice if you're using for a podcast recording. So if you need to send a signal back to someone's headphones, and you can send them different mixes. So you can create mix minuses within this mixer. There's actually mix A, B, and C up here that you can send back to somebody. So it's nice to have that. And then this, 2 more things. This one records internally, so you can pop an SD card into it and record straight onto that if you'd like to have a backup audio recording. It'll record all your tracks. And it's also powered over USB, so you can plug this into your computer and use this as a capture device. You could also, in a pinch, put in a couple of batteries and run it off of battery power, although I don't typically recommend that unless you have to. But I love this mixer. I use it all the time for my events, and I usually will hire an audio expert to run the audio side. This is mostly just the mixer I'm bringing for the smaller stuff, or when I'm receiving an audio feed from somebody and I just want to be able to manage it separately. Next item, it's a little one. I know it's like the headphones, but Apple AirTags, they're on sale, $15 off. You typically won't get a ton of sales on Apple products. They're normally $100 for this 4-pack. They're down to $85. I like these because I will actually tuck one of these in each of my Pelican cases, and this allows me to keep track of my Pelican cases when I'm on the road and traveling. So I actually put a bunch of Pelicans in a van that was driven across the country from Maryland to Dallas, Texas for a conference. And the funny thing is, the guy that was driving, he said, "Hey man, your AirTags were going off the whole time. They notified me on my phone that I was being tracked." And that means that they were doing their job. It means, if he stopped on the side of the road, if the truck had gotten robbed or stolen or whatever, I would be able to track down my cases. On top of that, one more additional layer of protection with these AirTags, when you hide them in your cases, you can actually put a TSA luggage lock on your cases, just so it prevents people from opening it right away. It's not going to prevent them from getting in entirely, but it certainly is a deterrent from someone going through your stuff. So Apple AirTags, $15 off. You're really not going to find these on sale for much cheaper than that. And I recommend putting them in all of your cases. Now back to the audio side. The Rodecaster Pro is another wonderful audio mixer. So if you're not a Zoom Live track person, but you want to have a nice, compact, and portable podcast studio in a box type mixer, I really like the Rodecaster Pro. This has 4 XLR inputs, so that gives you typically enough inputs for a smaller project. And then same sort of deal with the headphone outputs. You've got 4 headphone outputs, and then you've got a left and right audio output, USB to a computer, so you can use this as a capture device, and a micro SD card slot allows you to record. Rodecaster Pro, great audio mixer. I used it for an installation on a client of mine when we were building him a live streaming studio. Now, if you're looking for good SD cards, I feel like good memory is hard to find. We had this trouble with the SanDisk hard drives, and the SanDisk got in trouble because their drives, and I really should stop calling them hard drives. They're SSDs or solid state drives. They were formatting themselves. This was a big deal. The quality control has gone down quite a bit on recent drives. Hopefully we're getting a lot more of those out of circulation and we can come to trust them again because they had great prices, but only time will tell on that one. Cards that I'm trusting now in my cameras are from ProGrade. They're rated at V90. And so these are really fast read and write speeds. We're looking at 300 on the read, 250 on the write. These are currently on sale at $97 off for the 2-pack. So normally $485 down to $387. This is a decent price on these. Same goes for the 128. So if you're trying to save a little money, don't care for the 256 gig, you could also go with the 128s with a savings of $52 on the 2-pack. Takes it down from $259 down to $207. So again, just about $100 per card. But if this is your footage, if it's your client, you want to have reliable footage and recordings, you don't want them to get wiped, this is definitely the way to go. I use these on my Canon C70 and my other cameras. As of recently, this is like the only thing that I've been trusting. Another deal, this one was actually brought to me by a friend of mine. Now, I do not have this monitor. This is the one time I will tell you this is not a product that I have bought, but I have used it myself. The Small HD 702 Touch. This is a 7-inch on-camera monitor. It's a $300 savings right now. Originally $17.99, comes in at $14.99. It's got a beautiful touchscreen. It's a 7-inch monitor. You can run this off of batteries. You've got both SDI inputs and outputs, and you also have HDMI inputs and outputs. This is a very nice, solid build, heavy-duty metal construction monitor, and I wouldn't say that it can take a beating per se, because I have seen a couple people drop and shatter these, but you shouldn't be dropping your monitors anyways. So a beautiful all-around monitor. Some people are not crazy about the Small HD menus. Their menus can be a little confusing until you get to know them, but I just thought I would bring up this deal because it is a pretty good price on this monitor, and having a good monitor, these things last a very long time. So this is not a purchase that you buy and then a year later you're trying to get rid of it. This is something you hold on to for years. Back to all of the items that I have purchased and used myself. This one is actually the lens that I'm using on this camera right now. It's the Sigma 16mm f1.4 lens for Sony E-mounts. So this is the full screen. This is what you can see. This is a 4K signal right now that it's being recorded. Depending on how you're watching this back on YouTube, you might be watching back in just HD. But you can see the quality of this lens, and this is just in my little home setup. So imagine if you had a really beautiful lighting setup. This is just solid all-around lens for someone who's going to be sitting at the computer talking to the camera from just a couple feet away. This camera is maybe, not even arm's length away from me right now, but you can see this focus. Look at that depth of field there. Really, really nice, beautiful depth of field at f1.4. This lens is currently at f1.4, keeping my face in focus. My ears start to go a little bit out of focus there, but it gives me that beautiful, nice, silky smooth background. So this lens, 16 millimeters, coming in $50 off. Normally $449, coming in at $399. We're almost done here. We're rounding the bend. Last couple of items. The next one is the Manfrotto tripod, coming in at $524. Black Friday savings of $175. This is initially a $700 tripod system. This is both the head and the legs. Comes with a carrying bag. Nice capacity load of 22 pounds, so it does support a larger camera. And it comes with a mid-level spreader, so it keeps all the legs from kind of falling apart. And the height range, 66.1 inches. So a decent height tripod, and what I like the most is these types of tripod heads where you can level it in the center. The last deal that I found, and this one is also on B&H, is one of my favorite webcams. This is the Insta360 Link. This webcam is 4K. It connects to your computer over USB-C. It's actually the same camera that's on top of my monitor right now, and I use it for most of my Zooms when I don't use the nice fancy setup. It looks fantastic. It's 4K up to 30 frames. It has a gimbal. It will track you, and it has 4x zoom. So half-inch sensor, pretty darn nice for a webcam, and works very well when you give it a gorgeous lighting setup just like this one with the aperture lights. Highly, highly recommend. Really good software that comes with it. It also has modes where it'll point down to the desktop and do a top-down overview if you're trying to draw or diagram something. And it has a whiteboard mode, but having that follow where it keeps you centered, really, really nice. Couple of hand gestures here and there will either pause the following or it will allow it to resume following you. Last but not least, this is our final deal on B&H. And again, all these links are down below. If you stayed with me for this long, I really appreciate you. This deal is for the Focusrite Scarlett. This is an audio capture interface, so 2 XLR inputs, and it allows you to bring this audio feed into the computer over USB. So if you've ever seen me do any of my recordings that are virtual hybrid events, this is the product that we're using, or a similar product to this, so that we can get mix minus audio back into that Zoom computer so that the virtual guests can hear everything happening at the event, but not hear themselves. So tons of deals for Black Friday, both between B&H and Amazon. As I mentioned before, all the links are down below in the description. So if you want to check any of these out, they're all right there. If you do click on these links, they greatly help me because It helps me support the channel. I get just a small commission, and it costs no additional to you to use those links. So thank you so much for watching. Happy holidays, happy deal hunting. And if you got any other deals that you want me to know about, give me a comment down below. Let me know what else is on sale, and I'll be seeing you very soon.